Oh, hi, movies.
I swear to God, this will not just be an anime channel, but when a cartoon is able to feel more resonant and human than whatever mighty spectacle is being put before us in the cinema, you want to give it a little bit of attention. The Colors Within is set for a Western theatrical release this coming January 24th, so no harm in showing some love to the underdog, I suppose. The Colors Within tells the story of Totsuko, a literal Catholic schoolgirl who has a form of synesthesia, seeing those around her as colors. She develops a deep fascination with her classmate Kimi, forming a delicious pun in the Japanese title, Kimi no Iro, until one day Kimi secretly and suddenly drops out of school. This leads Totsuko to tracking Kimi down at a small bookstore that she happens to work at. Through coincidence, Rui, a quiet boy from her school, also happens to be dropping by with his theremin. Next thing you know, you've got K-On! With more gender diversity. Perhaps this is appropriate enough given that director Naoko Yamada came to form with the aforementioned girly rock anime. Frankly, K-On! Never really did much for me outside of a couple catchy songs and appreciating the fluidity given by the team at Kyoto Animation. Kyoto Animation, of course, are the good people known for their beautiful animation and creating a sense of atmosphere, even after a horrific arson attack in 2019. Prior to this, Yamada also directed the underappreciated A Silent Voice, about a bully coming to terms and atoning for his actions, as well as the similarly musically oriented Liz and the Bluebird, which unfortunately I haven't seen yet at recording this. What's notable in The Colors Within is how understated it is. Yamada has opted to work with the studio Science Saru this go-around, and Science Saru happens to be Masaki Yuasa's often experimental animation house that brought us the Scott Pilgrim anime, along with the underrated Godzilla Singular Point. Given that Totsuko's ability is about seeing things that go unseen, it's a little surprising that the animation isn't as surreal as you'd think it would be given Science Saru's other output. Her previous work in A Silent Voice, and even K-On!, shows that Yamada is no stranger to expressionistic and surreal sequences taken from a character's subjective point of view. And we do get more than a few scenes showing us how Totsuko sees the world, and let me tell you, they are drop-dead gorgeous. However, the bulk of the film is done in an almost documentary fashion. You could have done most of this in live action and probably not missed too much. I don't say this as a slight, but simply an observation and with praise to the innumerable subtle details that permeate every scene. Yamada shows a penchant for using almost irrelevant sequences as segues into a scene. Like, for example, Totsuko needs to ask something in the gym, but before that, we do get a remarkably detailed sequence of these otherwise nameless girls practicing a dance. It does tie in with Totsuko's own reservations about dancing that the film gets into, but it doesn't really add much else to the plot by itself. It does occasionally feel like it stifles the pacing a tad, but it does create this certain meandering dreaminess to it all. Indeed, dreamy I think is the name of the game here. The film is essentially an ode to the art of creating itself. You have these three kids who basically find themselves accidentally creating a musical project despite any of them having much of a musical background, least of all Totsuko herself, who basically hastily crams piano practice in her spare time after kinda, sorta, not really, but yeah, lying about knowing how to play an instrument. Indeed, Rui is really the only one of the bunch who seems more than a little comfortable performing, able to master no less obscure an instrument than the theremin, yet even he is stifled obligations by what seems to be the one and only Asian parent who doesn't approve of her son doing music. And that conflict is the closest thing that this movie ever gets to anything resembling stakes. Rui's mom wants to be a dentist, and he doesn't actually mind, but he loves music too and wants to do music and dentistry. Totsuko's synesthesia makes her lack confidence in expressing herself, and Kimi is trying to hide her truth to her beloved grandmother. Another filmmaker could easily spice this up with tearful speeches and maybe a crush or two. But instead, Reiko Koshida's screenplay ensures that the hottest the conflict ever gets are some calm discussions on the Book of Isaiah and a late revelation that teacher has once been in a music band herself. Yet, despite this lack of conflict, the film never feels boring or unnecessary. Indeed, I gotta admit that this movie in its own small way wound up inspiring this very channel you're listening to. The unspoken yet inescapable theme throughout the film is the human drive to create and how that creation can transcend whatever issues its creator is dealing with at the moment.
Do you like to draw with crayons? I do. But I'm very good at it. But it doesn't matter, it's just the fun of doing it that's important.
Yamada takes us step by step through how the songs that form the climax came to be, and the Catholic school and the abandoned church where the band practices in. It's not just some mere window dressing, as it is too often the case in anime, but actually informs a lot of the choices the characters make. No one lives in a vacuum, and least of all, the art, which is forever subject to the litany of experience, history, and interpretation of the viewer, listener, what have you. All these issues of family and faith, through the process of collaboration, opening up to each other, become sublimated into catchy city pop-esque numbers about ramen, planets, and God. Yet, through these surreal, quirky lenses, it nonetheless reaches out to its intended audience and beyond. The Colors Within almost works as a companion piece to another excellent work about the creative drive that came out earlier this year, none other than Look Back. While that film, based on the Tatsuki Fujimoto manga, is more concerned with comics as opposed to music, both it and Colors Within ask questions as to what drives people to create and continue to create while being in pain, as well as the power of collaboration and the subtle influences that people exert on each other in the process of that creation. However, where Look Back is a tearjerker about the bittersweet nature of success and pushing through the pain, Colors is far more about taking that pain and how it can be reworked into joy. It's perhaps the more sentimental of the two works, but in its own way no less real. The kids of this little ragtag team are not seeking fame nor fortune, just catharsis, and that's enough. By the end of Colors, it's left unclear what exactly lies in store for any of the characters, but that's not the point. Per director Yamada and screenwriter Yoshida, the very act of creation itself is worthwhile in its own right. To create is no less a part of being human than the very act of speech itself, and The Colors Within speaks loudly indeed. Highly recommended. Go watch it on the biggest screen that you can. Thank you all for watching and listening to, I guess, what is my own little creative experiment, as derivative as it might be. I'm currently recording this on December 31st, 2024, at around 5 p.m. I'm hoping I can get this out in time for the new year. I wasn't kidding when I said this movie, and Look Back for that matter, kind of touched something in me about creating, and just creating for the sake of creating, even if no one's watching. My last couple videos have gotten like less than 100 views. I'm hoping that this one will break that trend by being based on a slightly more recent and, frankly speaking, relevant work. But like I said at the top, I don't intend for this to become purely an anime channel. Anime has been a big influence on me, so I will undoubtedly talk about it more in the future. But also, I love cinema as a whole, and the way that cinema, once upon a time, actually informed anime. I feel nowadays it's kind of become self-cannibalizing in a lot of ways, but that's neither here nor there. What I do want to come back to is the idea of humanity. Anime is often thought of, quite rightfully actually, as a very commercial form, where it's concerned with mass market appeal along with simultaneously pandering to very specific niches. But yet here come two, if not three, if we're going to count Ghost Cat Anzu. Here come three films that kind of buck this trend and capture the human experience in a way that, frankly speaking, I feel I haven't really seen in the movies for quite some time now. You know, when we have this drive towards making everything more machine-like and more produced and more polished, it's nice to get something that just isn't quite as polished, but yet remains way more memorable. I actually have a hard time remembering most of the movies I saw in the cinema this year, and yet I can say that these ones at least left something in me, besides a headache from 4DX or whatever they're pushing out these days. Alright, anyways, I hope you all have a happy new year. Thank you all for watching, and peace.